All right, we're back. We had a minor issue on my end, something to do with the Wi-Fi connection or some dumbness. So we're back. Anyway, Marcus, we were talking about Will Ospreay winning the title, and I don't know how much of it you heard, but I was making the argument that I don't feel like his crimes deserve to be held to the same standards of a Joey Ryan, and I don't necessarily think that it was a bad idea to put the belt on him necessarily. Yeah, outside of the idea that it was probably not the right time to take the belt off of Kota Ibushi in the first place. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Any thoughts on that before we move to WrestleMania?
No, man, agreed. We've been talking about this seems like uh, for more than a year now. But when it comes to this stuff, there are levels to it. Is just absolute garbage as all this stuff is across the board. In terms of these being human beings and the way they treat other human beings. There are levels to it. And we do need to be more measured in how we approach it. And I get it. And I talked about this with you some weeks ago about, like, I understand the severity of the response because a lot of people just can't reconcile that they've backed, supported, or even helped a lot of these guys, either, get off with this stuff or enable it, So the quickest way they know how to try to reconcile with it, if at all, is to just kind of dead it, trash it, throw it out, maybe with the bathwater. And I get it, but a lot of this stuff is more nuanced than that, and it probably be the best to kind of take that approach. Now, obviously, like you said, you don't have to like the guy at all. It very much comes off like a douche. The quote Lucifer from the show. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you don't have to like the guy. I mean, there's a lot of people in all these wrestling companies to not like. But like you said, we do need to be a bit more measured. And to your other point, it wasn't a good time to take it off of Bushi, But again, this is the same company that pulled the evil thing. So I guess they're allowed to trip and stumble over themselves sometimes. So.
Well, they've been tripping. They've been tripping. So let's shift gears and talk some WrestleMania. It's in a few days. I'm about as excited as someone can be without actually being excited. So I don't know, maybe not excited at all. 14 matches, 2 nights, the 10th and the 11th. We'll run down the card for the 10th, then we'll talk about it, then we'll do the same for the 11th. The card for the 10th as it stands for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Again, why not just have a Raw WrestleMania and a SmackDown WrestleMania? I mean, you already have 2 shows. You might as well, but fucking
because the subtitle for the Raw Mania would be the A show, and then
then the SmackDown would be the good show. So here's night 1. You got Banks versus Belair for the SmackDown Women's title. You got Lashley versus McIntyre for the WWE Championship, which I believe is the Raw title. You got Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. So apparently Damian Priest is healthy. Taking on The Miz and John Morrison. So apparently John Morrison is healthy. You have The New Day. Yes, it is. Taking on AJ Styles and Omos. I almost care about this match. Is that his real name, Omos? Am I making fun of his real name? I am not. His real name is Tololupe Omo Gabidin. Yeah.
I don't want to go there. This ain't a racial thing or nothing, but it's like you know what that reminds me of, right? Jose Jalapeno.
Yeah. And a stick. Well, we know about my inability to pronounce Japanese names for years until I spent 6 years talking about the same person. I can finally say Kazuchika now.
Hey, progress.
Right? It only took me 6 years. Maybe I will be able to say Omogabayan in 4. We'll see. I feel like I can Tolalupe. I feel like that's right.
I feel like we could just change the narrative and just switch it to like going back to that title. Like the title was so bad, you was like, "What in the Kazuchuka?
What in the Kazuchuka is going on?" Holy Midoriya. So, the New Day taking on AJ and Omos. That sounds like a girl pop band from the early 2000s. AJ and Allie, the McCulka sisters. Remember them?
AJ already has the hair. Let's just go with it.
Yep, might as well. Then we got Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in the steel cage match. Now, to be clear, I haven't been watching the weekly product. There's a reason why my depression is gone. No more anxiety, no more depression, no more bad thoughts. But even I, not even attached to the product at all, still has to admit that the Shane Braun has been poorly booked, because all these other ones I've seen highlights or heard or seen people talk about or tweet about. I've seen no one talk about Shane Braun, like, at all. So that kind of gives you an idea on how little people care about this match. Maybe 4 years ago this would have been a banger. But I don't think anyone cares now. And how old is Shane? 49? 50?
Old enough to injure himself doing practice.
He is 51. He don't need to be in this match, but in the biggest WTF match I've ever seen in my life, Cesaro was taking on Seth Rollins. Okay. And then we have Lana and Naomi taking on Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, taking on the Riot Squad, taking on Natalya and Tamina in a tag team turmoil match where the winner gets a shot at the tag team champions of the women's division on night 2. It's almost like the tag team titles in WWE for the women's is kind of a makeshift, does nothing to help anyone kind of brand. Who could have saw that coming? Who?
Well, but Chad, Chad, it's helping all these women get all this good screen time. It's getting them on Mania, not once but twice.
Not once but twice. That is the biggest just indictment on this company, because I don't want to see these belts once, let alone this division once, and now you're arguing that I need to see it twice. No, thank you. I've already seen the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants once. I don't need to see it a second time. I know Saving Private Ryan's a sad movie. I don't need to see it a second time to confirm my sadness. No, thank you. All right. Yes, Marcus.
Like, I personally am a fan of the sequel, Saving Ryan's Privates, but that's just me.
You mean Shaving Ryan's Privates? Somehow it's by Blacked. I don't know. The go-to brand.
Oh, my God.
I may watch some things that I don't get, but, man, I don't know. I think it's weird that to fetishize an entire race of people. I might be in the minority on that one. I mean, I don't mean that I don't look at Cecilia Lyon and go, whew, I wouldn't mind having some babies with her.
Oh my God, we're gonna bond over something else later.
Man, like,
Later.
Dude, it's her hair. I don't know what it, like, I could just, like, fall into it and, like, get lost and just, like, cradle myself.
Never has his name fitted more.
Right? Oh, and she looks good with any style. Like, oh. But, like, yeah, she's black. But it's not because she's black that I like her. She's pretty. She's just so pretty. Like, all the pretty. But, like, to fetishize an entire group of people, like, I don't know, man. I saw, I think it was the Blurs do an article on that. And I read it, and I was like, dude, this is, like, yes, I get this. And I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's spot on. I saw a comedian named Godfrey talk about it. He was like, the industry has always profited off of racism. Because, you know, the whole undertone with the titles and the, you know, the BBC unsuspecting teenage white girl, that whole thing, like, they've always, whether it be the terms or the scenarios or the, you know, stereotypes within the scenarios, they've always, you know, hustled, you know, undercurrents or direct forms of racism. Mm-hmm. And people have just gotten away with it because they've gotten off to it, you know?
I remember, I think it was like a year ago, there's these two, and, like, I don't know what it is, man. Like, I you know me, I'm not a bigot by any means. But when it comes to ageism, I feel like I can find a groove there. I don't know what is up with these fucking Zoomers, man. It was these two chicks, and they look like they just rolled out of some crack den. right? Like they look so stoned and like they're just slurring their words. It's two white chicks from like Brooklyn, I bet, or Harlem or some other gentrified area. They're probably from Connecticut. Fucking, they spent like a day and a half in Harlem, and now they think they're edgy. And they were talking about how they find black dudes attractive, which is fine. But they're like, yeah, but they have to be like super. And they didn't. I'm gonna use a different term, but they didn't use this term. I'm trying to be respectful to my black colleague over here. But they're like, they need to be real gangsta. But they didn't say gangsta, and people came for them, and I'm just like, yay, tear them down. Because, like, they're being super fucking racist. Like, just because you think you're giving someone a compliment doesn't mean you're not being fucking racist. Or at least, bigot or prejudice. Like, just assuming some Japanese dude is really smart. That's fucking prejudice, man. Maybe racism is too hard of a word in some instances, because I feel like prejudice actually defines that pretty damn well. But also, like, yeah. I don't know, like, don't just assume people are, one set of ways because you get off on the idea of it. Like, if you see a black dude, don't just assume that he's uneducated. Like, that's fucking rude. It's rude.
Think about it. Inherently in that, it's like you're not attracted to the actual person. You're attracted to a stereotype.
Yeah, like, that's weird, right? Like, that's weird. I can't be the only one that thinks that's weird. Like, man. Listen, I've dated, two black girls in my life, and one of them was into some weird shit. So, like, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable doing this. So, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people need to just, like, find Jesus. Like, pull yourself back and just go find Jesus. Because, like, you've gone into a place I'm not comfortable with. I like seeing naked women as much as the next dude, but, like, man, like, I'm pretty vanilla. Apparently. Woo. How did we get on this topic? What did I do?
Yeah,
this is my fault.
Shout out to Cecilia Leone, and may I recommend as a companion piece, Scarlet Scandal.
Oh, you don't need to recommend anything about Scarlet Scandal. I'm well aware of who Scarlet Scandal is.
Hey.
Chad does not have a preferredness when it comes to his women, but he don't deny either. If you pretty, you come into the block party. Like, what's up? Come on in. How you doing? How you doing? God, what's her name? It's something Banks. Cassidy Banks, I think, maybe.
Cassidy.
Yeah, she's definitely on the list.
Like, yeah, no, two more for me, and we're gonna get back to these trash cards. We swear. But there's Demi Sutra and Kira Noir. Kira Noir. I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong. How do you spell Noir?
Noir.
Noir.
Kira Noir. Okay, I get that. And I get Demi Sutra too. I get it.
Yeah, because it's like when Skin Diamond left, there was space to be filled.
Oh no.
Oh,
Marcus, you did not.
I didn't really recognize it until I was already over the line. It was blinding. The light was blinding.
Okay. From moving on from people who get screwed to moving on to a card that will certainly screw us. Night one. If I don't come up with a good segue at least once per show, I feel like I'm not doing my job. All right, let's talk about the tag team turmoil match because I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna predict Natalya and Tamina because they're the legendary brand.
Yeah, I mean like you said, the legendary. They're the most fearsome right now. Is much as I appreciate them, I guess finding something else to do with Lana besides have her go through tables for the fun of it. I think it kind of sucks that in a way, and it's not to take a shot at Lana, but it's where she is. Naomi has kind of had to downgrade as she's tagged with Lana to kind of put herself on a similar level with her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't ever feel like they can ever let the Riot Squad have good things. Who's the other teams?
Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose, the Riot Squad reunion, Natalia and Tamina. I think there was 5. Hang on. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 announced. I could have sworn there was a 5th team.
Yeah. But I can't. Yeah, it's either between, like you said, Tamina and Nat because they're the most. I think in terms of a matchup, and like you said, they're legendaries. I know a lot of people like Tamina. Yes, she's technically. Um, Either them or Mandy and Dana, I can see. But really, I think the true challenge is. So I'm going with your pick. But yes, it's gonna be. I feel like it's gonna be a tough day regardless.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be something to write home about. So let's move on to Zaro, Seth Rollins. I haven't seen a promo between these two. I haven't heard them cut promos on one another. Thank God. I can do without that pain. No, thank you. I feel like everyone expects Cesaro to win, but I feel like this is just a match to make Seth Rollins look good. So I'm gonna go with Seth Rollins. Cesaro.
Hilarious. It might very well go like that. But yeah, I feel like they got. I'm gonna go with Cesaro here, even against Logic, because it's like, because I'm like, okay, Cesaro gets to win, a rare big win for him. But like, where does it go? I feel like if you give Rollins a thing, there's always somewhere to go with Rollins, even if I don't care to go anywhere with Rollins. Because I just again, they can never give good things to Cesaro, specifically on a consistent basis anyway. So, but I'm gonna go with him here.
He signed a new deal, got a WrestleMania singles match, and then that'll be it. Typical WB booking. Braun versus Shane. I'm going with the steel cage. The steel cage will win. I'll pick Braun Strowman to win, Shane to place. There's only 2 people,
Yeah,
so obviously
nobody.
someone has to place.
They're ultimately the biggest losers here, the fans. And the minute I heard Steel Cage, I'm like, oh, great. We get to see this 50-some-year-old father of, 3, jump off something else for no apparent reason. Then again, I guess if you're going to try to take down this behemoth, you kind of have to. But again, like how many times can we go to this well before people like, you know what? We're just not thirsty. Yeah, I go with.
Yeah, it's a hard pick, man.
Yeah, screw Braun. I'm going with Shane.
Ooh.
I came back. I just came back to dummy. I can't do it. Cause now all I can think about is him being what was that little incident he had with who was Karen Angle? Not Karen Angle. Yeah, was it Karen Angle?
Yeah, it was. Karen Jarrett, actually. But yes.
Yeah, Jarrett. Yeah,
But
so
yes.
yeah, between that and being an absolute wasted character and just stupid in general, I gotta go with Shane here. Hopefully he doesn't try and kill himself, but then again, it's a shame match if he doesn't.
So then we got the New Day versus the Lilith Fair's headlining act, AJ and Omos. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like AJ went from literally main eventing WrestleMania last year to now being in a throwaway tag match. And I'm just like, man, AJ, why did you sign that new deal?
You know what's funny that you said all that? You know the line he said when he came out that casket against Taker, right? Oh, what a ride!
Never more obvious than now.
Yeah, I'm going with AJ and almost here just because I feel like it's a more like the New Day can do their thing now without being tag champions.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the Charlotte of the tag division in terms of like if they're doing anything in the tag division, they have to be champions. and I think they warned in there specifically Kofi and Woods, aside from me now, that they can just do something else with them. And like I said, it feels like the tag team belts a lot of times are meaningless anyway. But I feel like these have a bit more meaning than the ones that Ziggler and Rude are holding. So um, I just feel like we'll get a lot more entertaining mileage in a fresher way from AJ and his immovable object named Amos.
Now, see, you brought up Rude and Ziggler, and I literally thought to myself, wait, what? Shows you how well they've been booked. So that takes us to, I agree with you. I think AJ and Omos are going over. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest taking on The Miz and John Morrison. Obviously, Bunny and Priest are going over. It just doesn't make any sense not to do it. They're paying Bad Bunny a lot of money to come in. So I feel like if you're bringing him in, you need to put him over. I mean, why else why else do you have him if not to have him win? It's kind of how I feel. Marcus.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. Yeah, like it's not too many times they don't have the celebrity guests go over at Mania. I mean, I feel like the only time they've kind of deviated away from that is when they did it with Trump. Um, but yeah, like you said, I mean, look, with Miz at this point, Miz and Morrison are just to take L's. We saw what just happened with him with the whole WWE Championship situation. The definition of a transitional champion, if I ever saw one, and Morrison, has been and the crowd goes mild ever since he came back. So, whatever happens to Miz happens to him. And like you said, it's too much eyes on Bad Bunny to have him take the L. Like Damian Priest, yeah, I got a chance to interview him once. I was always come off like a decent guy, top talent. Wish he was doing something more than this. But the sad thing is, it's probably the only way he would have got on Mania. So at least there's that.
Yep, at least there's that. I thought I was muted when I was clearing my throat. That's my bad. So then we got Lashley versus McIntyre WWE title. I feel like they did all this just to do the whole McIntyre wins at WrestleMania again. To me, McIntyre's not that guy. He's not Stone Cold. He's not The Rock. He's not the guy that you need to keep putting the belt on at WrestleMania so the fans go crazy for it. Because, he's good. He's not a terrible worker, but he's not moving the needle. He's certainly not a superstar. He's not and I don't mean, the WWE branded superstar. I mean, he's not a John Cena type. People aren't flocking to see him wrestle like they did John Cena. Now, that doesn't mean he can't be your favorite wrestler. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, why are you putting McIntyre in this match again? He already had this storyline last year with Brock Lesnar. So now you're doing a photo negative of Lesnar, and it's the same storyline. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not excited about it. I think Lashley's going to lose. And, Lashley spent 14 years chasing that belt to finally get it, and now to be a transitional champion, it doesn't feel right to me. I've been a big fan of Lashley since, he beat the Master Lock Challenge. And I don't know why. I don't know why that made me a fan of his. But I remember him wrestling when he was in pants in OVW. That was weird.
Yep.
So
man,
I want Lashley to win, but I don't think he's going to.
Look, man, I've been a fan of Lashley ever since he, came to WWE and followed everything he's done. He was very much one of the big reasons why I was so heavily into ECW, WWE's version of it, when he was champ. I mean, there was a lot of other reasons. They actually had some real quality talent on that brand and some jewel type matches and stuff for a time there. But before Vince came and blacked it up. But yeah, I've been a fan of Lashley, from WWE to Impact. We, did a phenomenal job, which, in a lot of ways prepped him for what he's got on now. I'm going to go the opposite with you. I'm hoping, that they don't do it with McIntyre. I feel like they're going to let Lashley, I feel that they're going to let him go over, but it's more so I want him to go over. Because I feel like you said, Drew's good. He's top talent and all that, but it's Lashley's time. And all these years we've been hearing about why Lashley came back and what he really wants to do. That's particularly that one match with Lesnar. If there's ever been a time for that to come to pass, it's like doing it on a Raw, that precious Raw after Mania or something like that. Like that's money.
Mm-hmm.
It's money. And like you said, we all talked about it. You can bring Lesnar back, and not necessarily with Paul, because Brock doesn't need to talk. He's a freaking animal.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need to talk. So, imagine MVP trying to hold Lashley back, against that freak, and it's, I just think it's a scenario that works. I mean, it's working with MVP now, and just that you don't let this type of duo go. Obviously, they've broken up the freaking Hurt business. I think they really overshot their mark with that and pulled that trigger too soon, but whatever. We here now, but I just think it's Lashley's time, man. He's added so many tools to his repertoire. We finally got him away from all the crap that has been riddled with his latest WWE tenure, and I just don't think you take the belt off him. This is not me speaking as a guy who likes to see, another black guy on top. This is just logic. McIntyre's had his time. All that stuff with Orton and stuff with Goldberg and God knows who else. He's had his time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's, the full circle apropos for the guy who broke the master lock to now be using the move to solidify his dominance over the company. So.
I think the other thing that really kind of gets lost in the sauce when we talk about Lashley is there's so many dudes in wrestling that just suck. As human beings, they just suck. But Bobby Lashley has always been one of the guys that has never had a negative thing said about him. I mean, you can criticize the fact that he's about as exciting as white rice. He's very bland. He's a very bland man. But he's a good guy. He served in the military. He got shot, trying to, I think he got shot, trying to, defend a robbery. It ended his Olympic trial run. He's never been bitter. He's always, advocated for, good causes and always, kept his nose clean and out of the, out of harm's way. Chris Jericho has been arrested for drunkenly fighting Gregory Helms in the middle of a New York street. Jericho's not a good dude. Fucking super spreader over there. Lashley never, he got divorced once. Oh, he has a kid. Oh, like those are his big crimes. Like, he's a good guy, and I want to see him succeed. And Lesnar, kind of an asshole. And I say kind of like the Grand Canyon's kind of a small crack. So the dichotomy between Lashley and Lesnar goes, beyond just the fact that they were basically built and bred to be, polar opposites to one another and had the same style, but Lesnar got, the rocket shot up, straight his ass and straight to the title, and Lashley fucking, dipped around for 4 years doing nothing. So it would be nice to see Lashley and Lesnar go at it, and I don't even care who wins, but it would just be a very interesting match.
Yeah. I mean, look, can you imagine? Because I would imagine they're gonna also try to, I guess, make it a little bit consistent. Because Vince has probably been salivating at the mouth to get, fans, actually back in attendance. So obviously they're gonna do it for this, and I would imagine he's gonna try to, make that consistent going forward. You imagine the crowd reaction to Lesnar strapping that doggone master lock on, or Lashley strapping that on Lesnar and potentially making him pass out. We've never seen that before.
No.
I don't think anybody's tapped out Lesnar or made him pass out. So just the potentiality of that is like I said, it's money waiting to be printed.
Benoit did. Survivor Series 03, I think. I think he made Lesnar tap. I think. I don't remember. But because they were building up to the idea that it was going to be Benoit versus Lesnar at WrestleMania. And then they pivoted, moved Benoit to Raw, and took the belt off of Lesnar to put on Guerrero. So who knows? Yeah. So main event, maybe it's Lashley, McIntyre, who knows? Bianca versus Banks. On one hand, it would be very cool to see these women in the main event of WrestleMania. The first all-female, the first all-black female main event would be very interesting. The question I have to you is, because they're now doing it on 2 separate nights, and a lot of people would argue that the main event of night 2 is the real quote-unquote main event, because that's what we were calling Taker Styles last year was the real main event, because it was the headliner of night 2, right? Wasn't that the headliner of night 2?
I want to say it was, but I had to go back and look because I want to say Drew beat. Who did Drew beat? Jesus. Was it Goldberg?
No, Braun beat Goldberg. Drew beat Lesnar.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm going back right now, so I'll tell you in a second. So technically, Drew versus Lesnar was the real main event.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That Drew Lesnar. So,
technically, Drew versus Big Show is the real main event. Oh no. So let me ask this. Let's say Bianca and Banks do in fact main event night 1. Do you think that is like on its own on the same level as Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky main eventing WrestleMania when it was one night, or do you feel like Banks and Belair headlining one night, but not the last night because it's the Saturday card, is not as impressive because it's not the big Sunday card?
No, it's hard to call, man, because it's like it's the situations are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like you said, it's a 2-night thing. You had a whole nother person in that match, which was really, I mean, they really just shelved Charlotte into that whole deal, but whatever. And with this, they've done you got the up and comer with the OG, the potentiality to knock off this new up and comer to knock somebody off who is great, but this is, of all her titles she's attained, this is her first real reign. And she pointed that out on Stone Cold's podcast. I'm like, that's interesting, but that really shows you like just how not really good her booking has been over the years, because she's always been able to win them, but she's never been able to keep them. And I think that story continues here in terms of going into that match. For me, I think they should end the night with this, because for all the build-up they've done with Lashley and McIntyre, we got this feud already.
Mm-hmm.
Saw these matches already. There's only so much more they can do. And that match doesn't have a stipulation, so it's only so much more we're going to be able to see they can do. I'm not going to say it's not going to be good, but when you've seen it multiple times, you've just seen it multiple times. So with this is a fresh matchup. This means a lot to these women. Means a lot to the fans of these women. So if they do main event, which I hope they do on night 1, I don't think it takes away from it not being ending with night 2, because ultimately that's not something you can help. Because what happens if they did debut on night 2, but night 1's main event was better? Then that's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's a real conundrum you can't really get out of. The least you could do is get them the main event, and then just kind of let them do what they do from there. But I get it. It's not the big belt, so who knows.
Who you picking though?
For me, I'm gonna go with Belair here. I love both of these women, but to me, I'm kind of over the whole Bianca always being a bridesmaid and never the bride deal. That's basically what it was for her ultimately in NXT, and I didn't like that. I feel like she should have got a chance to win that title, but the people, unfortunately, that she ran against had a more important narrative at the time than her winning the belt. Or their narratives were more important to the company at the time than her winning the belt. So, to me, with everything that they've been building up with, and Sasha, basically the only Achilles heel the girl has is a hubris. I feel like Belair has a good chance to knock her off here, and again continue the tragic story of Banks's empire, where she can get on the throne, but she can't hold it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not for long, anyways. Yeah,
very much the female Daniel Bryan in that regard.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think Belair's winning, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. Night 2, here's the card. Nia Jax, Shanna Baszler with Reginald, whoever that is. We've picked Natalya and Tamina, so we're gonna shoehorn them into this. So it'd be Jackson Basler versus Tamina and Natalia. Then we have Riddle and Sheamus for the U.S. title. Yikes. For the umpteenth thousandth time, Kevin Owens is taking on Sami Zayn with Logan Paul for some reason. Then the IC belt, it's Big E versus Apollo, my home country of Africa Cruz. Shout out to Booker T. Every time. Then we have the Fiend versus Randy Orton. Yay. Then we have Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. What's that?
Like Chad's favorite, the one he's pulling out the popcorn for.
Yep, you know me. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley, and main event Roman Reigns v Edge v Daniel Bryan for the Universal title. Marcus, we're going to start with the women's tag team title match. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus our picks from night one, Natalya and Tamina. Who's going over?
Champs retain because, come on, the whole narrative of Natty and Tamina in WWE is that they can't have good things,
and that's why I think they're gonna win.
I knew you say that. Because there's a good potentiality here of Reginald being Reginald and finding a way to screw the people he's supposed to be backing. Reginald is like the dreaded, well-dressed, athletic black Dossier that's went from Carmella to Sasha to now Tamina, Baina and Shayna and Nia. So, you're probably right, but I'm just not gonna go against the narrative on this one. It's like they can't. It's Tamina. They can't let her have nothing. She can't have nothing. They only ever pull her out the box, the box when they need to insert some muscle, or they need somebody like Natty to have a dominant partner. She reminds me of in Toy Story 2 when the Dusty Penguin got pulled off the shelf with a broken squeaker.
Oh yeah.
That's what they do with Tamina ever so often. Oh yeah, she does still work there, and that's the whole thing. So, I'm going the opposite, but now I'm more interested in this scenario now that we've talked about it. Now I'm interested in the match.
Well, one match that I will just skip. We have fucking Riddle versus the King of New York, Sheamus. I don't know what he's doing. Gangs in New York, that's what it's called. He's the Gang of New York, Sheamus. He's fucking Aiden O'Shea with red hair.
No, that's real. That's the gimmick.
Yeah, not wrong. I don't know. You got one dude from Ireland and one dude that I wish wasn't from the U.S. for the U.S. title. So I'm going to go Sheamus because I can't. I won't pick Riddle.
There are few people who deserve to have their head kicked off more right now than Matt Riddle. Right. So I am fully behind this Irishman getting it done. You know what I'm saying? I want him to turn him inside out. Feet that. Matter of fact, like I want him to still have them flops on when he does it, and they just fly in the air when he kicks them.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
That would be great. So I'm 100%. There's no scenario in which the only way out Riddle would have to be going up against like Ryan for this to be a double negative.
Yeah.
Because anybody else, I'm going with them. So 100% behind Sheamus with this.
Sami Zayn v Kevin Owens. Again, big old celebrity name. I'm going to go with Sami Zayn because why else would you have Logan Paul there if you're just going to have him lose?
God, man. That's not bad conventional wisdom. I'm going to just go with Owens because I just like to see Owens get wins. And I'm a fan of Zayn, but the minute, and this documentary thing has been mildly entertaining, but the minute they brought Paul into this, I'm just like, why? So I'm going with Owens here.
I would just like to point out that yes, Logan Paul is from Westlake, Ohio, which is very close to Cleveland. We don't claim him or his brother. Like anyone else can have him. Like we don't care. We do not claim him as our own. So just so we're on the same page. We then got Big E versus Apollo Crews, and I watched that video you sent me of their promo, and Marcus.
I knew it would be great for you. I say Chad is gonna love this, maybe for all the wrong reasons or all the right, but he's gonna love it.
Firstly, I was trying to, I was like looking up like what I thought Big E reminded me of, and like there was just so many like, okay, like he's clearly a used car salesman. Doing one of those auto dealership, commercials. And then you had fucking Apollo, who somehow had less charisma doing his accent than he did when he didn't have an accent. And I'm just like, what? Oh my God, I just read what the match is called. Oh no, Marcus, no. A Nigerian drum fight?
The WWE 101 ways to rename a no DQ match.
Listen, unless we go out into the parking lot and instead of cards, you got a bunch of dudes with drums banging on it like some type of Mortal Kombat type fucking scenario, I don't care. But that would be cool as shit. Watching like fucking Apollo Crews drop a Big E in the middle of a circle of dudes just banging on their drums. Like, that'd be cool as shit. But they're not going to do that. They're not actually going to do something cool. Why would they ever do something cool? I don't know who wins this. They both need the win. They both need trajectory. I'll pick Apollo because at a certain point, Apollo has to win. That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like both these guys, and while it's that back and forth promo is hilarious because this inflection that he has is just so weird.
Yep.
Like there's an intensity to it, but there's this undercurrent of constant comedic flair in it that I don't know if it's intentional or otherwise. Like Apollo, I'm gonna get you. Like it's. Like I said, I don't know if it's intentional, but it's hilarious to watch. And Apollo with this African accent or Nigerian accent or whatever. Like it's for me, I always appreciate no matter how outlandish something is. If a person commits to it, I'm 100% in. Is why like stuff like Batman and Robin. Like we know that interpretation of Mr. Freeze is elseworld as it gets, but the committance to it. With that being said, like I definitely want these two to have a great match. Like you said, I think it would be more intriguing to do it in the reign of what you said. I mean, the fact that one of the best matches this company ever put on was that Eddie Guerrero street fight with John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be fair. It's only been a few months since E has technically had that same type of deal with Sheamus when he like gave him like a big ending through a table off a car or something, or a big ending on a car.
Something like that.
So, yeah, so that, but like I said, 101 ways to call it a no DQ match. I just want these two to have an actual high quality match because we got robbed of it at what that was, Fastlane.
Yeah. So
I just want these two to go out because they can steal the show if they get them the time and they let these guys do what they do best, which is beyond their promos. That they can steal the show. But in terms of who I'm going with, man, I'm tempted to go with Apollo because I just want him to get a win. But I'm digging everything with E right now, so I'm literally torn. But I think I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna go with Apollo here.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Apollo because I want to get a win, and you can't have him. It's imperative to give him wins in scenarios like this, specifically when this is a fresh gimmick. And I hate when they give people fresh coats of paint and then key the car. You get what I'm saying?
So. Yep. So I'm just gonna pick the Fiend between Randy Orton and Fiend. So I don't know. I have no desire to do a preamble for this.
Nope, I'm right there with you, man.
You picking the Fiend as well?
Yeah. Anyone but Orton.
Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. I think Rhea wins. I don't know why. Asuka hasn't been the same since they took her undefeated streak away from her. They very much Goldberged her in that regard. So I think Rhea wins.
No, I'm right there with you, man. I love Asuka. I love Rhea. Rhea's somebody that's grown on me because I've watched her grow into what she is now. It's been a treat to watch. Oscar, like you said, exactly what you said. They messed over with a win streak when she got this title coming off of Becky. Um, it was cool, but they've really done this woman a disservice because most of this reign, I forgot she even was champion,
Mm-hmm.
and half the time she wasn't even injured and wasn't even on the show. So to me, just by proxy of the piss poor deliverance in which you've executed, her reign should warrant her dropping it. And I think because ultimately what sours a lot of these matches, specifically around Raw, is we feel like it's just a setup waiting for Charlotte. Anyway, I think it's a story to be told to have Asuka drop it to Rhea, who has a chip on her shoulder and a bone to pick with redemption on the main roster because the last time she came on the main roster, she got fed to Charlotte. So to have her beat Asuka, which I don't think she ever did in NXT, um, to get that win over her, have the title, have Charlotte come back, and then get redemption for getting fed to the woman. I think that's the story you tell here.
I completely agree. But we'll see if that's end up being the story that they want to go with. It certainly is a situation that you can't predict because Vince McMahon just doesn't have a clue anymore what he's doing. So it's really hard to be able to make a prediction about anything anymore with the WWE just simply because of how erratic Vince can be at times with his booking. So, main event: Reigns, Edge, Bryan, Universal title. I think a lot of people are picking Edge. I'm kind of torn because like all three dudes have a good stake to the claim. So I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think is going over?
Of all the matches we've talked about, and it's funny when we go down these cards that look horrendous on paper. I always end up getting more intrigue when we talk about them with our predictions. But of all the matches, this is like the best scenario in terms of it can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because obviously Brian has a great claim because again, always the bridesmaid thing, and then obviously like you said, we talked about a while back. I had completely forgot his hemp title reign.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the thing, and that was probably one of his best, some of the best stuff he did in his last few years. But as a heel, but then you got Edge, who you're not. It's rare that you get a better story to fall in your lap the way that it has with his whole journey. And Reigns, this is the best stuff he's been doing in his career. So this is a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately, um, I'm gonna go with Reigns here because I think more than anything, while he's shown to be dominant, he's not opposed to to getting the win. However, he got to get it because the goal is to remain champion. The hows and the whys ultimately, kind of fall to the wayside for the grand scheme. So, I can very much see this, being a Brian coming down to a Brian and Edge scenario, and Reigns coming in and squeaking out with it. But I do think this match is going to be worth the wait. Obviously, I think a lot of people and I'm more of a fan of triple threats just because I think it ups the potential for creativity. But I
Mm-hmm.
definitely understand people's wants. It's like they always go to these damn triple threat scenarios, and I get it. But coming off of the main event from last Mania, this is an upgrade.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, uh, I think definitely this is one of those scenarios where the fans are definitely gonna get a win because I can't see these guys, pulling back in this scenario, specifically with the fans actually being in attendance. So looking forward to it. But I'm going with Reigns.
I think I'm going to go with Edge. Although I want Bryan, but I don't often get what I want.
Sure.
Edge just makes the most sense. Like you said, he's coming off that big hiatus of like a decade. He's finally back. He's finally healthy, and he like it just seems like the right time to go in that direction. So we'll see if that's end up what they do. Plus, the potential of an Edge Reigns feud coming out of this would really help make Reigns, especially if Reigns decides to really go really heel on Edge. I feel like it's an
Yeah.
easy way to get more heat on Reigns. So hopefully we'll see something like that come of it. But I think Edge is going to win, even though I'm pulling for Bryan, because Bryan has never really had a good reign with that belt. I feel like if Bryan does win it, he's losing it to Big E by the summer.
Interesting.
In fact, I think whoever wins will probably end up losing it to Big E at some point this year. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I don't feel like I am. But, who knows? Like I said before, Vince is a very mercurial person, and, he could have one thing in place and then 6 hours later have a completely different thing in place. So it's kind of just one of those things we got to wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, so we've been on the air long enough. I knew we'd have 2 topics and we'd go 90 minutes. We damn near sure did. Marcus, any thoughts or ideas or opinions you want to share before we head off for the night?
No, man. No, I think that's it. This is gonna be an interesting week because it's I guess we ending the week with Mania.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the middle of this week we got Takeover Stand or Fall or something.
Stand and
Take a
deliver.
stand. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. Stand and deliver. So it's definitely gonna be a packed week. I'm looking more forward to the Stand and Deliver than Mania, but oftentimes, like, a lot of these shows for WWE's main roster, it's severely undersold on paper, and the talent didn't have to over deliver for the show. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be a interesting week, and our platters are usually full on the wrestling side, so we can't really complain. It's content,
Yeah. So with that being said, realnerdcorp.com, we're back. We'll have all our usual weekly stuff up on the website this week. RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP, on Instagram at RealNerdCorp. Marcus can be found on his personal Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParaDoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, on Twitter by going to True Penny Show on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at ChadNerdCorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Huts. Be sure to, once again, check out the website, realnerdcorp.com. The podcast will be up, and all our other podcasts throughout the week will be up there as well. So be sure to tune in for that. Marcus, unless you have anything else you want to add, now's the time. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. We will have a new date and time for Making an Impact because they're moving to Thursday, so that means we got to move our show. So for this week, I think we're off again. Maybe, we'll see. But, that's it. That's all we got for you today. And as always, watch more wrestling. Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.